Hello and welcome back, and that's right, today we want to talk about a very unusual product from Synology, namely the BeeDrive, their first forays into local direct attach storage. But before we go any further, in case you're new to this channel, I think it's really important to get a few disclaimers off the bat, because if you've not followed this channel before, you know, I'm not going to be as arrogant enough to assume that you have. I talk about Synology a lot. I would say of all of the brands I talk about, they're up there about somewhere at least in the top 3, maybe even the top 2 brands that I cover the most. I hate seagulls. Get used to hearing that. Now, with that, it means that I know quite a lot about this brand's hardware and its software, and unfortunately it means I'm deep in the trenches when it comes to their products. And for the course of this review, I'm really going to have to forget most of that. The reason being is this is not only a very different kind of product to what they normally produce, but on top of that, the target demographic from this audience is so far removed from a lot of their NAS products that a lot of those observations that I've made previously about Synology NAS are going to be completely unsuitable here. And it's going to be really difficult for me to divorce myself of that. So I'm going to try to go into this with a completely open, fresh mind and know that this product, the BeeDrive, is not targeted at the same kind of user who goes straight onto a NAS drive. This is for uncomplicated backups, and that's really the target demographic for it, and I will try my damnedest to stay on track. But let's crack straight on. So, what the heck is the BeeDrive? Well, nice and simple, it's an external drive. Have we talked about external drives on the channel? Damn straight we have. We have talked about external drives a lot on this channel, more on those later on. And we need to talk about what sets this apart from those, what's included, is it good value for money, and ultimately, is this just a fad product, or is there a genuine, legitimate target audience for something like this? But let's crack this open. I've already opened it up there. This is the 1TB version. This is an external USB connected 1TB SSD. There is a 2TB version. The 1TB version knocks around, again, suggested retail, so the price will fluctuate around wherever you are online, including your tax. Now, the 1TB of this device knocks around for about $119. Again, that price will fluctuate. That is an introductory price. And the 2TB is knocking around at $199. Now, again, that price is going to slightly change depending where you are in the world. But I think it would be fair to say, for those that care about the money, the old bunts that they're laying out, that's quite an expensive SSD. Yes, it's an SSD drive. We bring that forward. That's like one of those little travel pucks that we have for GPS. It is incredibly tiny there. It includes the software as well. But at 119 and 199, I think before we even continue the unboxing, we need to get that number into some perspective, because again, there'll be people watching this that have followed Synology, and there are people out there just learning about this and want to know about what that number actually interacts into. So, to put that into perspective, if you wanted to buy a 1TB or a 2TB external SSD these days, you're looking at, for the 1TB, around about $89, give or take. And that's an average I took over external SSD passports, SanDisk external drives, and Seagate drives as well. If you're going at 2TB, looking at about 149, 159, and I was looking at WD, Seagate, Brent, SanDisk, that sort of thing. But it's worth highlighting that, yes, you can get 1TB as an external cheaper. Before a number of you head into the comments and flame me for that. Absolutely. You can get 1TB external SSD drives for lower than that, if they're USB 3.2 Gen 1, 5 gigabits per second. If you go for those 5 gig external SSD drives there, with those, you're looking, you can knock about 20, maybe even 30% off that. So your 1TBs, you're looking at 59.69 maybe, and with the 2TB, you're looking at 109, 119 overall saving there. But because this is a 10 gig USB drive, so that is a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C connector there, that's where that extra price point there is for a number of drives. And it's also worth highlighting, again, if we're going to talk about price per terabyte, got to talk about external hard drives. Ow, my elbow. If you go for external hard drives, and again, that means you'll get nowhere near the performance threshold of these SSDs here, you can make tremendous savings there with the price somewhere even at half price what we've talked about thus far for an external hard drive. But again, lower performance threshold there And you can forget USB 3.2 Gen 2, at least on single drives. So now we put that number into perspective, and the fact that this is clearly costing more, what is that extra money getting you? Well, for a start, we can look at the accessories, but what you're getting for your money in the accessories, well, that's not going to be it, is it? We've got our quick start installation guide there. We've got 3D barcodes of stuff we're going to need to access later on in the review. We've got our external USB Type-C to C cable there, B cable covered. And we've got an adapter there for converting the C to an A, depending on the system you're in. That's it. Nothing more in there. Nothing more. So where is that extra money going? Why have I spent extra on this device? Where is that extra dollaroonie going? Well, the software. Again, if you've followed Synology in the past, if you've followed this channel before, you will know that as brands go, when it comes to their solutions, NAS solutions predominantly, it's about the software. And the BeeDrive software is where things, I would argue, make this drive worthwhile. But once again, think of the target demographic. Because if you own one of these, if you own a Synology NAS, you aren't really going to see the point of this. This is not aimed at you. There may be a point when this gets interacted into the NAS ecosystem there, maybe down the line, depending on how this goes out. But let's talk a little bit about that software that this 10 gig external SSD drive includes. Now, it includes the BeeDrive software. This allows you, connecting this, to back up to 5 different PCs directly connected, USB bus powered. Again, those PCs allow you to back up the file folder level up to 5 retained versions of those files. So 5 PCs, 5 retained versions each. You've also got wireless mobile backup there, and you've also got something known as BeeDrop that allows you to just one-click send files either automatically in the background or as and when, which is really, really important, from your mobile device. What do I mean by that? You go on your phone, you've got your PC there, and you go, I need this thing on there. Yes, you can use like Skype and stuff to send links. What about actual files? Well, this allows you to just go bonk and send straight over. Basically the same as AirDrop for you Mac users out there. Talking of Mac users, currently there is no Mac OS support currently. Apparently it's coming soon for this device. So this is a Windows only product. When it comes to mobile, you've got your Android and you've got your iOS. We will go through the software later in the video. Now when it comes to those file transfers, as you would expect from Synology, you've got a lot of control and customization presented very, very well there. So for example, file and format exceptions can be put in there for different types. So in case you don't want to overload that 1 TB or waste some of that sustained performance on big chunkier files. The same goes for file size exceptions as well. So you can choose any file within a certain size remit to only be covered by that backup. So you've got the options there to customize that backup. Also, you've got a 1 or 2-way synchronization between the content of the drive and the content of your connected host system via that synchronization, be it on mobile or desktop. Now, that all sounds familiar, right? Because a lot of those external drives that I've mentioned earlier on, some of these arrive with software to start with. The Sabrent drive, for example, has got Acronis included there. Indeed, some of WD and Seagate have got their own tools included with them. However, they don't include, for the most part, the sort of facilities that BeeDrop allows you to just, send files over either automatically or semi-autonomously as you need to the system for your active workflow. Also, they don't allow that multi-client, multi-versioning 2-way synchronization that this includes. That's where that extra bit of bunts is going. It's going into the software that facilitates this drive into an active workflow that is far more localized than what we've seen here with a NAS. This is not an alternative to this. These are not the same thing. This is designed for users that don't want to use a NAS server or have a NAS server but still want the convenience of Apple Cloud Storage, Dropbox, Google Drive. They want the kind of convenience of that GUI that they have to drag and drop files between systems and to communicate files on a smaller level. Now, I talked about things I like about this device, and I've been pretty glowing about it. I'm trying my damnedest to be as neutral as possible and look at this from the point of view of a novice, of a less tech enthusiastic or caring user that just wants something to just shut up and work in the background. But there are things about this that, unless they're changed later on, for me, are not really going to bowl me over. And again, we'll get to the software in just a moment. For example, non-encrypted file transmission there. I'm not overly bowled over by the fact that transmissions aren't encrypted. Yes, we are talking local transit, so there is a question of, well, you should have your safeguards in place with the connected client devices throughout that, but still nonetheless, I would have liked to have seen an encrypted option there. Another thing worth highlighting, that when you are backing up your mobile device to this device or BeeDropping files onto the system, you're not doing it like this. This isn't a wireless hard drive, such as we've seen before, again, from Seagate, WD and the like, where they've released external drives that have got an internal battery of between 8 or 10 hours and support of a wireless connection for you to have a wired, such as the WD Wireless Passport, that allowed you to use your mobile devices and wirelessly send to that. This doesn't work that way. This works by connecting it to a client PC. It's then powered and running, and it commits its synchronization in the background. And when your mobile device is going to be synchronizing or BeeDropping with this, you are doing it over the network. You are not sending this way, you are sending via the network, via the connected client with the BeeDrive software onto the drive. That means that when this is disconnected, you can't access it, which is a real shame. Now, there is going to be the option, of course, to connect this directly to your system via the USB-C, of course, with the phone, which is a little bit dangling and not really convenient. I'm not sure how many people are going to use it that way, but having the device connected to a client machine, there's an element of discomfort to that for me. If I've got when I've got a NAS that's on 24/7, which again has a higher learning curve, has a larger kind of knowledge set requirement, and therefore not the same target audience as this, I still think a user should maybe take the extra time to learn this kind of technology, because then you've got that set up, and then you've got access to Synology's DSM and all of those great backup applications. This, unless you have a host system that, you've got your studio, you plug it into your studio setup, you've got all of that going on, you go off-site, you do your thing, you take your photos, you drive your car, whatever it is you do, I don't know you get back, and as soon as you get back, because this is on, it will begin that synchronization. Also, it will do those differential backups. It will do the kind of setup, shutdown, resume, restart backups that you need for it to do it incrementally there in the background. So you won't have to restart the job. It'll just carry on where it left off, which is really, really good. But still, nonetheless, there is just that hobbling factor that this will always need to be connected to a client device that I think for some users may ruin the workflow a little bit. Yes, if you're someone that works off-site and comes back, that's less of a problem, because then you're just going to leave this at home. But maybe you're not. Maybe you're going to take it with you, and therefore that risk, that constant connect disconnect, is less convenient, I think. Now, I'm going to go into the software now and take a little look around that software just to see exactly what the features of the functionality are and just how far they can extend into those backups, and of course BeeDrop as well. So let's back our way over to the PC. Okay, so we've got our desktop client up and running. There is our BeeDrive. I've already downloaded the PC software. So what we're going to do is go ahead and plug in our BeeDrive. So let's get that there, get that plugged in. I see a slight jump up there on screen. We've got our drive. It already arrived with the online installer included. Just double checking OBS is still running. And from there, what we can do is go ahead and run our drive serve. And if we can see, the software is automatically identified our drive there, so we can have a little look at the options included with this software here. So we can do a computer backup first. So this allows us to say which customized folders we want to go for. Do we want to go for some of the presets that you'd find in Windows, or go for the custom one here? So from there, we've got our individual files and folders located on this local PC. So we can choose, for example, that we want to download and back up to even just one specific one. So say we want to go for virtual machine images there in the backup. And again, there's even more options open to us, whether we want to create multiple versions to be able to retain over time. Of course, if you go for 5 versions, once you try to do the 6th version, it will overwrite the original one. On top of that, whether you want to archival, kind of like a recycle bin there to restore data from, as well as file size limitations to ensure that you don't oversaturate the drive too much with kind of unnecessary clunky files if you want. You can add some of those extensions and exceptions there if you want to make sure you don't go for certain kind of system files that you're not really going to need and you only want to focus on some of the data that you yourself are creating. But for there, what we can do is go for a 2-version limit there and then click confirm. From there, click next, and you can go ahead and run that backup there in the background. So it's got it, and it's now in the background, it's now going to do it. So from there, we can go ahead and do something else. So whether we want to do another computer backup with another system will involve us having to remove this drive and pop it in a new one. But alternatively, we can do file synchronization here. Again, you can create a BeeDrive folder, both on the local system and on the BeeDrive itself, or go ahead to the custom area, click there, and then pre-select 2 folders that you want on 2 individual locations to synchronize between the 2 of them. So for example, we'll go for comics there, we'll back up onto the PC backup, we'll create a new one there. We're going to call this one comics backup. From there, click confirm, click next. It's that straightforward. And again, exactly the same settings and rules can be applied to that backup if you choose, or otherwise just click OK and then you can proceed. But what we'll do with this one is we're going to do a one-way synchronization. So rather than having both folders have exactly the same data, we can set it up that that folder from the computer will then synchronize and send data to the BeeDrive, but then we can delete it from our local side and still have that data retained if we choose. And along with that, we're just going to go for 3 versions. We'll allow that synchronization. It's that straightforward. Now, again, we'll cover the mobile transfer later on because we still have to download the application. And now at the time of recording, we're not able to download it. If we try and scan that, it isn't available until the 7th of June. But don't worry, you will see that later on in this video. I just can't do it right this second. But from my side, what we can also do now is head into the top and have a look at some of the system settings of this software. So for example, from here, you can choose whether you want what the device to be called. And of course, if there are updates for the application, they can be downloaded there. And there's even a bit of historical log information about the connection of the drive and the files that are getting sent back and forth all the way through. So again, I'm not going to call this an overly complex application, but I will say it's very, very straightforward from what we've seen here. And arguably, if you want to manage a backup, this is a really straightforward way to do it. Now from it, you've got the main user interface here, which talks about the amount of data being used, data transfer in, live, find out more information about the health of your drive individually, and of course, the activities back and forth happening on the drive between the connected client system and indeed mobile application stuff and transfers will apply there as well. If you want to configure some of the pre-existing computer backups, you can do that there. So you can edit some of those existing synchronizations or add brand new ones between the client system and the BeeDrive. And the same goes if you're creating some of those file synchronizations, they can all be conducted from that user interface as well. And anytime you want, you can just add a brand new one very, very easily indeed. And then finally, from the bottom, if you're doing the mobile transfers, that's where they'll appear as well. But again, we'll add that later on in this video as soon as that application becomes more readily available there. And it's worth highlighting as well that if you want, this drive is also always visible natively on your local machine. So unlike a lot of proprietary level stuff where you can't access files and folders, this at the very least allows you to access the contents of those files and folders that you want to back up, not only from within the graphical user interface of the BeeDrive software, but also natively within your own operating system's file manager, that straightforwardly. You're not being locked out, which arguably has happened several times in the past with certain Apple devices where you can only access it via preset applications such as iTunes. I know that's changed a lot in the last few years, but at the very least you can still access all of these applications and software here. This is not mind-boggling software. It is certainly not cutting edge, but I will state that at the very least it is incredibly user-friendly, incredibly intuitive, and it's responsive, and that's really, really what's important. Let's move over to the app. Now, arguably the mobile application for the Synology BeeDrive is based more around convenience than anything else in the presentation. We've got the BeeDrive there on my mobile on the right hand side. If we open it up, we can see there that it's a first time setup. I've already played with it, but I've reset it just to show you how convenient and quick it is to set these devices up. You click the start button there, and then when you're getting ready with the scan there on screen on the desktop, just make sure you've got mobile transfer selected. Select next, a 3D barcode will appear, click scan, and just like that, boom, you scan the 3D barcode and now the two are paired together. And we go back to the main desktop there on the application side on the PC. And now we've got our choices. We can choose from this point to only back up new photos moving forward, or back up all the existing photos that we have on the device. You can also change the directory on the BeeDrive if you choose to go to a very preset directory here. So if we wanted to, we can just go ahead and call it something more specific. And then from there, we can choose that folder if we wish, and that will continue to appear. As you can see on the bottom left of the screen there for you guys, you're able to see while I'm moving that it has already started appearing there on the native Windows display. So what we'll do is we'll choose to back up, we'll back up all existing photos, and we'll start that backup there in the background. And you can see the application on the desktop is being immediately responsive. Remember, we're not utilizing the mobile device directly connected with the drive. We are still using the local area network that is shared by both the phone and on the desktop PC that it's connected to there. And again, there are question marks for some users about encrypted transmission, and there is kind of a plus and a negative there, because you do got to bear in mind this is local sending anyway, but still that is a question mark I think for some users. Unfortunately, because I'm using an Android setup here, I'm not able to show you one of the other great benefits, which is the conversion of HEIC over to JPEG on, kind of supported proprietary photo management between iOS and Android, but that is included on the app. Now on the interface down the top right, we've got the usual stuff for the app there. If we choose, we can check out what's going on with the backup there in real time. There is, of course, the option of a more focused backup. So you can go in with a focused backup, and rather than the app running in the background, you can go ahead and have the app dedicated on the top there on the main screen. So if you do have a larger initial backup, you can go ahead and use the focus backup there for it to be running there in the background dedicated to this task. And of course, you can exit that at any time. And then in the background, the application is still going to continue to back up those files regardless. But again, you can have that running, so if you do exit the application and come back to it, it will continue working there in the background. And of course, as you can see on the bottom right, you can choose whether you want to include videos in that, which again comes back to what we were saying before about certain file formats and more, and as well as duplicated files as well. And again, if you're using multiple different devices, that may be the case. So going back, we can have a little look at the BeeDrop. So if we go there and tap the button on the bottom right of the screen, we've got three different options. We can either upload an existing image over to the BeeDrop folder. So we see there, we can use an existing one. Here's a picture of a pizza I had yesterday. And that will add that file being sent now. And it is quite a large 4 meg file there, and I am running the backup. So it might be unfair to test this while that's going on. But as you can see on the desktop there, it's already sent that file there on screen. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly go back into that backup there in the back. And I'm just going to pause that just to give it a little bit more fairness in terms of sending those files. So again, we'll send a different picture of pizza. And as we can see, it's sent much faster that time onto the desktop PC. On top of that, you of course can go ahead and choose just general files if you wish. So again, for example, if we look at this is some tickets for a show that I went to yesterday. You can send those over to your desktop, boom, done. And then finally, you've got support of utilizing the live camera there. So you can go ahead, take the photo, take a picture, boom, and again, confirm it, and that will in turn get sent to the device. And as you can see there, live there on screen, can bring it up there on the right hand side. There's the image that we just took there. So again, that kind of file drop is going to be convenient to some users, particularly when you look at it being immediately uploaded there on the native file explorer. You don't have to be overly reliant there on the Synology BeeDrive software. I think in terms of convenience of having kind of your local desktop there, the fact that it supports files, not just photos, is quite nice. We've got the synchronization that we've discussed before. Overall, I'd say the software is particularly polished. It may not have a lot of kind of high frill moments like you find with Synology DSM, but the handful of things it does very well, and it does it very intuitively and responsively overall in terms of the software, both on the desktop side of things, with things appearing exactly where I'd like them to be, or on the desktop side of things where you've got more of a control. Do I wish I could directly interface with this drive? Absolutely, or directly connect it to my mobile, for example. And that doesn't seem to be something I can do at this time. So the over-reliance on this desktop software, although allowing me to have a great degree of control over, multiple client backups and multiple versions, does mean that I'm kind of tied to a desktop interface here, which of course is very useful for that BeeDrop functionality, but is less important if what I was going to use this for was just simple, wireless, and complicated backups. Let's head back to the studio and conclude this review. So what do we think of this drive? Well, I'll tell you right now, I am not the target audience for this drive. This is not targeted at me, at least at the moment, unless they make innovations into the software to integrate it into Synology's existing NAS platform. When that comes, maybe I'll think about it when this can be interacted with a NAS, and therefore it can be added into my storage ecosystem. That said, I was never going to be the target audience for this device. This was always going to be targeted at users that are currently utilizing third-party cloud systems and are slightly concerned about that data being elsewhere and want an easy, uncomplicated, straightforward means to have that without going down 24/7 NAS storage routes. Now, yes, it costs more than the likes of WD, SanDisk, Seagate, and the rest of them. It costs more than those drives. However, with that software included, that in most cases you don't get to the same degree as this, and hopefully integration into DSM down the line, I kind of think the extra bit of bunts being spent is a little bit more justified. I think they've approached this in a very Synology way. Now, whether you think that's a good or bad thing really comes down to you, the end user. But in the same way that I think a lot of users, myself included, who use a 3-2-1 backup strategy with a NAS, still have a USB tier in our storage system. It is better to have off-site, off-platform systems throughout your network. In that world, this still has a place. It's just quite a peculiar move from Synology in this way. I wish it allowed me direct backup to it in a wireless drive format. I wish it directly connected into a Synology NAS system, and therefore I could better integrate it into an existing setup. But for a novice user that already has an active workflow that is utilizing third-party cloud services when they are off-site and coming back, and enjoy the convenience of the GUI of those cloud services and that ease of don't think about it, just do it setup, this is going to be very much in your wheelhouse. And if you already have Synology products, then you'll be very aware of just how user-friendly a lot of those hardware and software options are. That same approach has been applied here to the BeeDrive. And although I don't think it's ever going to challenge Hyper Backup or, dare I say, Active Backup Suite, I do think it's a step by the brand to make a better entry point into their ecosystem for a lot of storage users that are just downright intimidated by whole NAS systems. Is it for everyone? Lord, no. But as an entry point into storage and backups, whilst doing it in a Synology way, it's a great little product for that. I just hope to see further integration of this into Synology's ecosystem, whether Synology think that's relevant or not. Who's to say? They might want to keep this completely separate, but I really hope they don't. What do you guys think? If you are thinking about this device, or you came to this review thinking, what the heck is that for? Remember to go into those comments and get into the mindset of the novice user. The first days you got into storage, and imagine you didn't know everything you knew about NAS, and think about it in that light, and with that knowledge, let me know what you think of this product in the comments. But there you go. That is the full review of the BeeDrive from Synology. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want to learn more, there's a full written review linked in the description. Should be live, if not now, then in the very next couple of days. Do check that out. If you're on the fence about what you need for storage, and you were looking at this because you were looking for a soft entry into storage, but it hasn't wowed you enough, use the free advice section linked in the description over on NAScompares, or the free community forum Ask NAScompares, or our Discord, to get some free advice and support on the best solution for your needs, not just your budget, but very much your own skill set. Use that for me and Eddie, it's only us here at NAScompares, to help you with your storage setup there. There's loads of free options there. Other than that, if you have enjoyed this video, very important, and if you were going to go to the likes of Amazon, B&H, Newegg, Scan, any of those shops anyway, if those two things are true, you were going to go there and you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please use the links in the description to take you to those stores. Doing so allows you to, when you get there, it costs you nothing extra, and anything, and I mean anything you buy, it results in a small kickback here to the channel, where it's just me and Eddie doing what we do, and it allows you to passively support content creators like us. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.